Hi, I'm Darryl and I'm an executive and personal coach. One of the things that I am increasingly seeing, because I am also a clinical psychologist, is people presenting with depression. And depression in the workplace is becoming an increasingly observable phenomena. It might be the marketing manager who presents because he's overloaded and in a sense crushed by the amount of work he's got. It might be someone who has lost the work-life balance. It might be someone who's undergone a divorce or separation, or who has had financial troubles. But irrespective, they are in the workplace and they are struggling, and clinically they are depressed. Now, you may well have seen this curve before, this bell-shaped curve. It's very familiar within the workshop toolbox. And what we have is an axis here, the vertical axis, which talks about job performance going from low performance to high performance, and on the horizontal axis, or the x-axis, we have stress, also going from low stress to high stress. Now, what we know is that as people work in the workplace, they actually work at an optimum when they have moderate stress, because you do need a certain amount of arousal to do your job effectively, and that then means that they actually are working well and performing well and producing well within the workplace. So there is an optimal level of stress that produces good performance. But if we move beyond that point, beyond this point here in the bell shape, and we come to what is called distress, or stress that is less than optimal, then our performance drops off. It drops off quite substantially. And at this point here, it's really about stage one, where people start to become anxious. They know that they've got too much to do, or too little time to do it, or they're running out of resources. And words like, I'm in overwhelm, I'm now getting stressed, I'm now getting anxious, people start to lose sleep, start to worry a good deal. That's stage one, and it's really important for most people if they can actually catch themselves at stage one, or indeed if bosses can recognise that their employees and their staff that work for them are reaching stage one. And that really is that circle there represents that stage where it is optimal to recognise and be self-aware that you're actually feeling these kinds of symptoms of anxiety and general stress. If, however, people don't acknowledge that they're feeling this anxiety, and that's not uncommon, typically in the Western society, and certainly across globally, I've noticed that people tend to push through. Certainly in Australia, there's the saying, "She'll be right, mate." And so people tend to push through, try to go the extra mile. And what happens then is their performance deteriorates further, and they then start to lose control of their mood and their emotions. And beyond anxiety, what happens then is they also start to get depressed. The depression sets in, they don't always remain anxious. What happens is they start to get depressed, and interestingly enough, the flip side of depression is often anger. So there'll be little flare-ups of anger, perhaps their spouse or their children or family will tell them they're a bit grumpy. Maybe the secretary or the PA will say, "Excuse me, but you're seeing like you're not your happy self, your fuse is a bit short, what's going on?" So people generally get feedback about this phase here, which is really stage two. You've gone past anxiety, you're now into starting to feel the pinch here and feel depressed. Certainly there's sleeplessness, there might be loss of appetite or excessive eating, there's a low level of morale. There might be some tears, some temper outbursts, general feeling of discontent, short fuse is another good description, as I said a moment ago. Now, hopefully, if we miss where we are at, or the employer misses where the staff happens to be at stage one, they will pick it at stage two. And that's a good sign if we can pick it, because we don't then want to go to stage 3, which is in fact breakdown. And breakdown is really sad and tragic when that happens, because people have pursued this line on the bell-shaped curve to a point where there is no retrieval, and they literally break down. It's an interesting term, breakdown, but it's a good descriptor as well. And here is where they need to take time out. They might go onto what we would call the work cover system, but they're not capable of functioning in the way that they know that they are, and typically that means absences from work, and that's very sad and very tragic when that happens. When people get to breakdown, then I would be expecting that it would be something like 6 months, maybe 12 months before they can retrieve themselves with psychological or psychiatric help, possibly some medication to get them back to working optimally. If someone is able to catch themselves at this level, then it's only a month or so, a number of weeks before they can actually turn themselves around. At this level here, it would be about 8 weeks, maybe 3 months before they can, with assistance, get themselves back to optimal performance. But if they go through that and they actually get to breakdown, as I said, that's rather tragic and sad to see people being casualties in that respect. And it takes a good 12 months to retrieve a person back to their level of functioning. They may not always get back to that level, but certainly they'll be wiser. They probably will have a different lifestyle, because when you get to this level here, you learn a lot. Life has a way of teaching us some very powerful lessons when you get to this level, and this is a very sobering level, and people typically change their lifestyle and do things very differently, and so often they don't want to go back there either. They get onto another curve altogether and start perhaps another career, or have a different perspective on life that involves more family, friends and recreation. So I guess the motto in the story is, if you are feeling some anxiety, or if you see your staff feeling anxiety, catch it early. Earlier the better.